How you doing? Is it morning or afternoon? What is it?
It's
noon.
afternoon, technically.
Okay, that's true. By 1 minute.
On a
Okay.
smoky Thursday. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Ready for September.
Are you?
I'm not the kind of guy that likes summer to end, but I'm kind of ready.
Are you?
I mean, I'm ready for the
have a summer
I'm ready
this
for the
year.
fall, crisp evenings. It's not bad.
No, I hate it so much.
Yeah, that's good.
All I see is the
okay.
doom of winter and the darkness coming.
Oh no! I think I had fires and embers, all that stuff.
Summer.
No,
I like the summer.
I'm good.
I want to tell you about this cool thing I found recently.
Okay.
It's an online service where you buy tickets to concerts, except the catch is you don't know who's playing or exactly where it is.
What could go wrong?
And you don't get to find out until 36 hours before the show. So the company's called, I'm going to try it out for the first time. I'm just so excited and it's really cool. And we have so many clients who appreciate the arts and retired. And I just thought, what a neat concept. If you love to see live music, to discover, new artists. So it's called, I think it's pronounced SOFAR, SOFAR.com.
Roll the dice.
Yeah, it should. I mean, this is not an advertisement. I just think it's cool.
Okay.
So it says there's a show on Saturday in Temescal, Oakland. It's $25 per ticket. And it's like, bring something to sit on. And it's a BYOB venue. That's all you know.
It's so Bay Area. I love
Bay Area.
that.
But they're in every major city pretty much across the country now. And I think it's the coolest thing. So if you do check it out, let us know. I'll let our viewers know how it goes when I go to my first show.
So next,
should be fun.
When are you going?
I think this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll hear it on the next. We're going to hold her to it, folks. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, welcome to A Place of Possibility. We are happy you are here. I am Richard Del Monte.
I'm Angela Wright.
Thank you very much. And so what are we talking about today, boss?
Oh, one of our favorite topics. We're going to talk about how you can use videos to help create and support a family legacy that can foster connection in your family for generations to come. We have an expert guest with us today who's going to explain how to do this the right way for your family.
Yep. So, this is something we've been working on for a long time in our business. There's a proverb that's called shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. And so shirt sleeves refers to a working man's clothing. And so the proverb speaks to how a family starts out working class. And then by the end of and then one generation of the family hits it out of the park with success. Wildly, spectacularly
classic
successful.
American dream story.
Yeah, right. Rags to riches. And so by the end of the 3rd generation of that family, 2 things have happened. First, the money is all gone. And second, the family relationships have been laid to waste because of the impact of the money on the family.
I think pretty much everyone I know has a story, right? Like somebody passes away and then the whole family exploded. I actually have not heard of an estate transition except for the families that have gone through our process, actually, where this didn't happen. So
So there are some causes to this. There have been studies done of affluent families and looking at what's the reason, because most people will think, it's because the estate planning attorney screwed up or the investment advisor screwed up and lost money, things like that. Believe it or not, less than 5% of all failures attributed to the shirt sleeves phenomenon are due to any kind of failure in planning. So the pros are doing a good job and they're advising the families. The biggest, the biggest cause, 60% of the failures was due to a lack of communication and trust within the family. They're not getting along. They don't like each other. They don't trust each other.
Sounds like everything.
We've never heard of anything like that happening, right? Families we know are our own. And then another 25% are caused by unprepared heirs. So the family just fails to prepare them for what the roles and responsibilities are going to be that they're going to have to take on once mom and dad are gone.
And here's, this is not what this episode is about, but a common way that people do that is they will raise their kids to believe that they are poor or middle class.
Yeah, we don't have any money.
We don't want them to know that they have this money. Otherwise, they'll never work hard.
Yeah.
That's can be a way to really set them up for failure, for a disease we call affluenza.
Yeah.
And so if you're in that camp, I would urge you to chat with us and just really consider what's happening, because learning, knowing how to be poor in our society is really different from knowing how to be wealthy. It's just skills that you need.
Right. Exactly. You're preparing for a life.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
You're preparing your children for a life they're not actually going to have.
Yeah.
How about that? Okay. And then the last little piece, 10% of the failures are caused by no mission or vision for what to do with the money When you have more money than you need to live on, you got to figure out what to do with it. Otherwise, it's going to consume you. It's going to ruin your family. So those three causes together add up to 85% of the failure. Or is it 90%? 95% of the failures. So, if you can address those in your family, you got this, you're on the way to having a family that's successful and will not be one of the ones, the short sleeves to short sleeves people.
Yeah. And there's actually a lot of information out there about how to do this. As Richard said, there have been all of these studies. There are tons of organizations who are helping families with this. We put together the Living Impossibility process. It's happening all over the world. Actually, this is not a United States phenomenon.
Right.
Clogs to Clogs in Holland. There are lots of versions of this all over the world. And it's why, if you haven't seen it, Richard wrote a book called Endless Inheritance that basically walks the family through how to address these various causes of failure.
Yes.
And, so today we're focusing on lack of trust and communication and lack of vision and mission with the wealth. And what better way to communicate this with your family than, through a video? It's a fantastic way to solve this problem. It connects them to their history. It shows them, how some of the wealth was made in many cases. And when you have this conversation in the context of, you're not just getting an inheritance, you are a steward of something really amazing. They approach the money and the relationships with their siblings / business partners in a lot of cases really differently.
Right. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. That's the goal, right?
That's the idea.
Right,
Of course.
right,
Guaranteed.
Right.
Just the lawyers are banging down the door.
Right.
So we would love to show you a clip of one of these from Richard's family. It was made in 2011. It's Richard's uncle, Bill Del Monte. He is the last known survivor of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire. And he's describing the experience in this video. Interestingly, his father, Angelo Del Monte, founded the Fior d'Italia restaurant. That was in 1887. And Bill describes in this video how Angelo was able to feed the quake victims afterwards. So we want to share this.
Roll the tape.
The earthquake came, and then when the fire approached, why then my dad, from what I understand, he rented a buckboard with a horse, and he took us down to the ferry building, and they said there was flames on both sides of the street. That's what they tell me. And at the ferry building, we took the ferry to Oakland because my dad had a place in Elmhurst, which is about 25 miles, maybe less than that, on the East Bay. So we used that as a summer home. So it came in handy to take the whole family over there. So we stayed, the whole family, I understand, we all stayed there until he was able to rebuild the restaurant and flats before we could move back to San Francisco. The restaurant was, they put 4 walls up, and in fact they used a tent temporarily. The main thing nobody could get was water. But my dad knew somebody in the Presidio. He had a connection. So he was able to get water and make soup and whatever else that he needed in the restaurant.
Yeah. How about that, huh?
Tell me about what it's like for you to have this video.
It's just, it is so inspiring. First of all, now he was 105 years old then when he did this, and he lived to be 110. But he's gone. So if we hadn't captured the story, it would be lost forever. It would be anecdotal. My kids may or may not remember it, and after that, but now it's we have it in perpetuity in our family, and we can see that our family played a major part in the earthquake, one of the most seminal events in the Bay Area. And just, it creates a sense of pride for what we actually did to help the city recover. We kind of lost it into the clip, but he started feeding people. He created a soup kitchen and started feeding the people who were starving in the city. So
And-
yeah, it's really moving, right?
And all of the data shows that when you can connect people, like, what does our Del Monte family name mean? You
Right.
have an answer to that and
Right.
something you can connect to historically.
Right.
That sense of pride is massively important when
Right.
it comes to keeping the next generations focused on the goal, which is flourishing in the family and keeping your relationships healthy,
Right.
not taking your piece and running.
And I've been able to use this to be able to challenge my kids and say, this is what our ancestors did with their lives. What are you going to do with yours?
Yeah.
That's going to be meaningful.
Yeah. And,
So,
I lost
pretty cool.
3 of my 4 grandparents by the time I was 17 years old. And
yeah,
what I wouldn't give to have my grandmother's voice, to see her face, all she went through, marriages and divorce, and I go through that. And gosh, just have a tiny little piece of her wisdom, what I wouldn't give for that.
Yeah. And imagine if it was your great-great-grandmother, the longer it goes, the more precious it becomes.
I can't
right?
even imagine what it would be like to have that. So to help explain more about the use of family legacy videos, our guest today is Stephanie Shaterian. I hope I pronounced that right. Please fix it if I didn't. Stephanie is a co-founder of Flow Content, a video content producer specializing in original, authentic documentary style pieces that serve specific goals or strategic purposes. They work with families and decision makers in the for-profit and nonprofit sectors who have immediate video needs for marketing, promotional, or development goals. Flow's work is tailored to capture and share their clients' authenticity, as well as create relationships and emotional connection with their desired audiences. Stephanie, welcome to A Place of Possibility.
I am so excited to be here and talk to you both. Oh my gosh. I loved that whole conversation you just had. I feel like I learned so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We're happy to have you here too as well.
Yeah.
So let's start out at the beginning. So how did you get into doing these digital video legacies for families?
Yes. Oddly enough, it came through my family. So
what a surprise.
So I work with my spouse. He's my partner in business and in life. And we've done documentary video work and what we call work with a documentary feel to it. And really all I mean by that is what you were kind of describing in my introduction, which is that we work with real people. We're all about creating a space where people can really be their true selves. And it's really about connecting people, like you were talking about before, Angela. It's about connecting people from one side of the camera to the other, truly. And my father is a longtime business consultant. He specialized in exit and succession work. And he had just gone through this huge process with a family, rather elaborate process. They had a thriving business. They were starting a new venture. There was a charity that had been started by the family. They had a family bank set up. They had properties. And it was sort of along the lines of what you're talking about, really, this idea of not wanting that wealth that had been created to dissipate in that 3-generation time. And was there a way that we could create a video component that would tell the stories behind why these decisions were made and why these things were important to the family? And that was really how it started. And then just working on it as a creative, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to do more of this.
I do this all day, every day.
I know, right? Yeah. I actually get paid to do this. It's amazing, right?
I had a moment like that reading a client's story, and I thought, I'm learning right now from this immense wisdom. I'm getting paid to do this.
I know. It's crazy.
Totally. And I will just say too, I feel like families that choose to do this kind of work, it's important to them, and that comes through, and getting to work with them in that way is really special.
Yeah. We talked about some of the benefits of doing this, kind of at the global scale, but I'm just wondering, in your experiences with the families that you've worked with, can you share some of the benefits that you've seen?
Well, do you mean like after the fact? Because I never see that, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I can tell you,
we got to fix that.
Tell you honestly, though, going through the process is also really helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there really, truly isn't a better way to create connection. And sometimes, we are very, we don't approach our projects in a cookie cutter manner. It's about figuring out what works best for the family. So we've done things where it's conversations between generations, not just let's set up a single camera and have someone talk. And it just, you get, like, to Angela's point, you're getting a sense of who that person is. There's just no better way to do it.
Interesting. Yeah. So what do you typically include in the videos that you make? I mean, so you got to think about what topics you're going to cover, what is the family wanting to convey? Do you help tease that out of them? How does it all work?
Oh yeah, 100%. So I would say we sort of, there's kind of three buckets I would say that these kind of projects fall into. So one is maybe you just want to create like a family documentary piece. And maybe, Richard, that's kind of what you did with your family. And this is just, it's maybe a 20-minute or an hour long or an hour and a half long piece that is going through that real historical record. And we will talk about discovery along that route. The other kind of project that we do is I call like a values-based project.
Yeah.
And so this is more where instead of creating, because a lot of times those family documentaries, like you watch it or you show it at the anniversary party or something, and then it sits on a shelf for a long time and you don't get back to it. So the values project is really like how to create short form videos that are based off topic, discussing what are the things that are important to you. Is it faith? Is it how we run the business? Is it parenting? It can get really diverse depending on the family and what's important to them and what they
Right.
want to connect or make sure is important to their heirs, going into the future. And then, creating really a library of content that the heirs can go back and access whenever they need it. So who knows, 20 years down the road, I need to make a business decision. Let me go back and see what did Grandpa say about that,
Yeah.
and then lastly, there's this sort of like public/private or private/public. So a lot of times if you're sharing, if you do have a business or you do have a charitable organization, like there's value to the organizations in that content just as much as there is for your personal family.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can structure a project in a way to get stuff that's private for the family and also maybe has value to the organization, whether that's institutional memory or promotional or what have you. So
yeah.
So going through discovering the what approach makes sense. And then there's a discovery process. What do we have to work with? What assets do you have? Like you had some awesome pictures, Richard, in that video that you showed. So like you might have slides, you might have VHS tapes. Angela, you probably have some VHS tapes from when you were a kid.
Yes, you do.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
That would be fun. Actually.
All of that stuff.
You mentioned at the beginning, but some people want to focus on the history, and then also the second way is to go with values. Most people, I think, and when I do talk to people, they want to focus on the history. They think that's the most interesting, but I find that the real juice is in the values, right? The conveyance of the values with them, like how it's always about some struggle that they went through, but what values got you through that struggle?
Yeah.
How did you sustain yourself? And it's always things like hard work, faith, whatever, perseverance, those kind of things. Right. And I think that's where the juice is.
I agree.
Absolutely. And there's ways to string that together, right? You can think about that. And that's where the storytelling aspect comes in, or where working with a provider can be really helpful in kind of thinking about what is it, the goal of the project? What is it that you want to achieve with the project? And so we can make sure that we're kind of hitting on those elements through the storytelling aspect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the process? So if I'm a client listening, I might be thinking like, I don't know what my values are. I kind of know my own personal, but I don't think I could list them off. Like these are my 5 most important ones for my heirs. So tell us, just like walk me through what happens with the family from the first phone call to the end of their video. What does it look like?
Yeah. So
we have all day. So go ahead. This is good.
High level.
No, I gotta go to lunch.
High level. I will say I was describing what we call, a discovery process, right? And so there might be some exercises that we can help to kind of tease out that, Angela, if they're not 100% sure what those are. And they may know some, and they may think of more along the way, right? Or sometimes I think it's great if you're working with a couple for them to sit down separately and then come together. And you might end up with this huge exhaustive list and then be like, okay, well, let's narrow this down. What's most important to us? If we're doing more of a documentary, maybe it's just like, what are the most important storytelling elements? What are the goals? What do we have to work with? Like, who do we have that in the family that's willing to participate and go on camera? Do we feel more comfortable doing it as conversations? Do we prefer to just be alone? You know, sometimes actually people open up more to somebody who is not part of the family than somebody who is in the family, you know, depending. So sometimes it can be nice, you know, just all of these things. And then once that's sort of figured out, and we will come back and we will pitch really, or share the creative concept that we've come up with for how to go about your project. We often do a written treatment or an outline. And this is really just so again, talk about communication. You were talking about the importance of communication. It is about staying on the same page with the family all the way through. So it's not like you're going to get your video at the end and be like, what is this? This is not what I expected. Like,
this is what I wanted.
So they get to have some input in the editing process.
Yeah, that's
really
smart.
front load it. So instead of like, the other way to go about it would be like collecting a ton of material and then trying to figure out the story on the back end. We are much more proactive. Let's figure it out on the front end, pre-interview people, get an idea of what they might share before we film. And then the editing process is like super smooth.
Yeah.
So when are the times when you would want to use a video in a family versus maybe when it wouldn't be as good?
Oh, like people will write books or something.
Yeah, like, you know, there's different kinds of media you could use, right? So how do you decide, or how do you help them decide whether to do a video or not?
Well, certainly if somebody's not going to be comfortable on camera, you know, that's really truly, you know, a big part of it. But I would say, and I don't mean to discount the value of memoir or certainly even audio for your podcast listeners that didn't get to see the video clip that you shared. I'm sure there was value in even just hearing the voice. But I will say, if you can get the buy-in, video is just, you really cannot beat it in terms of that connection building, because it is, you are seeing the person in all the different visual cues. It's not just the voice, but it's how are they holding their body? How do their eyes, like, you know, our eyes are the windows to the soul, right? Like, what does it look like when they're saying that? How did they move their hands in a certain way when they said something? Oh. You know, Angela, you were talking
my
about
Italian Nana. I can see her hands going everywhere. I would love to have
trigger?
that on video.
Great.
You really just, I could cry thinking about that.
That's
I
so
forgot
wonderful.
about that.
Yeah. So again, if you can create that, and like I said, we are really experts at working with people. Like, it is weird to have a camera in your face and lights. We keep our sets very intimate. Like, it's really just the two of us with whoever's there. Like, we keep it very low key and relaxed so that people can let go and be themselves.
You're kind of leading me into my next question, which was going to be about how do we prepare? Where do we do this? And you know, how do you help someone who is already kind of uncomfortable getting on film? So it sounds like your house. Do you also have a studio?
So most of our work is on site. I do feel like in general, people are way more comfortable in environments that they are comfortable in. So I think it's better for us to come to you. That said, we also do remote work. So we have done full projects with people like this, like how we're filming right now. And that is a great way, if you're on a budget, to incorporate people from all over the world, you know, without having to have a camera crew come. But that said, you know, a great way to plan it is maybe around the holidays, if you're going to be in person, or if you're doing a family reunion or something like that, and everybody's going to be together anyway. That can be a great way to think about it, and getting it all done in a way that is cost effective and also like it's just easier for everybody to participate.
Yeah.
So what does the output look like when you create a video? Is it like short, or are different families different? What does it look like what are they getting? You know, at the end of this process,
30 seconds, 20 minutes.
Like, are they getting a TikTok, or are they getting, you know, some, you know, like, you know, what's coming out of this process?
Oh man, no vertical alignment. No, I'm kidding. Like No, yeah, probably not TikToks. Although if you really wanted it, we could work that in to how you want it, tell you. But yeah, there's so many different, and it really depends on the client and the kind of project that they're trying to put together. So like, for example, maybe you have, maybe if you're showing it at an event, right? So let's say you're going to play it at a party. You do not want an hour long
Right.
piece at a party.
Right.
You want maybe 8 minutes, like
Okay.
maybe even less than that. Like it just depends. Everybody's going to be sitting there and enjoying it, but so taking all of those things into account. But if it's more for private use and like, hey, we really want the full story. We want the full hour, the whole 90 minutes, 2 hours, like whatever, for a piece. Or like I said, with those kind of, with the more segmented, that can really be all over the place, right? So like a couple of minutes to maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, just depending on the topic.
Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. So you give them like I don't know, what do you want to call it? The B-roll, like all the background stuff that you cut. Do you give them the whole thing?
Sorry, I apologize if you can hear background noise. Can you hear that?
That's okay.
A little bit. It sounds like the gardener got there.
I thought it was the ice cream man or something. Maybe.
Always happens, right? Like, and then I'm the video person. Dang it!
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Okay, what did you ask me again? You asked me.
Do you give them the B-roll, like all the other stuff that you cut out? You know, the outtakes.
Oh, so
give that to the families.
So generally not. I mean, if they asked for it, we can provide it. But I would say in general, like if we cut it out, there was a reason for it.
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of times too, like people don't speak in sound bites. People don't speak in, even in your video, right? There were some cuts in there.
Yeah.
It was likely that maybe he talked about something and then he remembered a moment 20 minutes later. And then you're like, well, it actually makes more sense from a narrative storytelling point to put that back here. But that whole middle part where he was just talking about his neighbor being loud, we didn't need that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had clients say to me, "Oh, no one wants to hear my story. No one wants to see my face on video." What do you have to say to those people?
I have to say, what do your ears think? Like in general, especially with the documentaries work, like in general, it is second gen that's pushing for that project. Mm-hmm. And first gen is the one that's like, I don't want to do it. Nobody cares about me. Like, who cares? Blah, blah, blah. I'm nobody special. But it is that second gen who is seeing the aging process, who sees the next generations coming up, maybe the little ones that they're like, I'm not going to get to know grandma. Mm-hmm. Or they won't get to see grandma like this, like how I know her. Mm-hmm. So even if you don't necessarily feel like you are anything special, you are special to these people, I guess. I would say to your heirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, we've used a couple different tactics for that because we've seen the same thing over time. And one of them was we would say, you're going to be somebody's great. Well, we say, what would you pay to be able to see your great grandfather telling you his story right now? What would that be worth to you? Like, oh my gosh, And it's like, well, someday you're going to be that great grandfather to somebody.
People really undervalue themselves.
I know they really do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's such a great way to put it, Richard. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, that's, and then the other thing was, we'll tell them, you're talking to your family. Sometimes while they're on the screen or on audio, we'll just say, you're talking to your posterity right now. They're going to be watching this in 100 years. What do you want them to know about your life or what's important to you? And then they just, boom, they start spewing like they're on a pulpit somewhere. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, really that is a great point too. And I will say, like, if you are going at it more from the values approach, I think that is more where like the first generation gets into that idea, right? Yeah. And maybe their values are really important to them and they get excited by that idea about wanting to share it and make sure that other people know that those things were important and why they were important. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a question coming in about what should somebody plan to budget, and I imagine that's a wide range, right? If you're doing a 2-minute video on Zoom versus a 20-minute documentary, but could we ballpark it for people who are like, can I afford this or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, to your point, there's a million ways to do things. There's a million different budget points you can put it at. Like you could record grandma yourself with your phone, right?
Yeah.
And that there's value in that as well. To work with us, our minimum project price is $5,000, and it certainly can go up from there depending on the complexity of the project.
Yeah.
But it's not unattainable, for many families.
Not at
And
all.
I would say, thinking about budget is really important because think about it like it's not like a commodity, like it's not like a widget you're buying, right? It's
Right.
more like a kitchen
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Far from that, it's not even funny. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And what is important to you? Is the production value important to you? Is it most important to you that you have the camera on everybody and we're going to fly out to all the different locations, or we're going to get everybody together? Or is it that's not as important as, being able to incorporate a lot of people from various places. And so we would rather do it in a remote way because that works for our budget. There's all kinds of ways you can work with, figure it out.
That makes a lot of sense. And if you think about, the amount of money you might drop to take your family on vacation, I mean, that's a vacation to have something, for all of the future generations. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Or people would pay that to get their estate, like the legal side of their estate planning done. This side, I would argue, is just as important.
Yeah.
Having seen it from the back end, how many hundreds of times throughout my career, it's just as important.
Yeah. And pro tip, here's an idea. Do both. Take your family on vacation and do the video.
Do the video
while you're there. Right.
Do it at the same time, then everybody is super relaxed.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. By the way, did you? Where do you do these? Where do you prefer to shoot?
Homes, right?
Oh, you said that already? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we can do it anywhere, right? I mean,
and
certainly like maybe you want to incorporate, like if there are businesses involved or philanthropy involved, maybe you want to include B-roll of that kind of stuff, or a family vacation property, or something else that has meaning for the family. Like, there's all kinds of ways.
Okay. All right.
So cool.
Well, Stephanie Shaterian, thank you so much for being our guest today on A Place of Possibility. This was a wonderful interview. You've been a great guest. It was really fun. And thank you for all the great work you're doing for families to preserve their legacy, and the businesses that you're working with as well, and nonprofits. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been a wonderful conversation. And like I said, I learned so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to check out Stephanie's work, her contact information is in the show notes. There are lots of videos that you can look at on her website to give you an idea of what's possible for your family. If you have a topic idea or a question for us, please feel free to write to us anytime at info@aplaceofpossibility.com. We would love to hear from you. If you'd like to schedule an appointment to talk about your finances, you can click on the link to access our calendar and come on in and see us. We are also still offering the Investment Answer ebook. It's a great little
primer.
Thank you. I was just like blanked on the name of the book. Did everyone notice that? Anyway,
glad it was you and not me this time.
I know. Oh no, I'm joining your ranks. This book describes how we manage portfolios, but it does it in a way that everyone can understand. It's a quick and easy read. So we encourage you to check it out. We will be back in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yep. Thank you very much. And until then, remember, you're invested and so are we. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.